My name is Sean, and I suffer from somnambulism. If it is easier, it is sleepwalking. That is, I can walk at night, move around, perform various actions, and still be in a state of sleep. So that you can understand how much fun this is, my girlfriend was scared of me to the point that she ran away in the middle of the night, leaving her things. When I tried to talk to her, she called me a sick psycho who looks at a girl in his sleep, calls her an agent, and tries to eliminate her. "You tried to smother me with a pillow, you psycho," she yelled, and then told me never to call her again. It wasn't always like this for me, but the first time I was sleepwalking was when I was 6 years old. My parents told me that I got up in the middle of the night, got dressed, and went outside. I stood in the courtyard of our private house, looked at the sky, then took a shovel and began to dig up the earth. My father was surprised, and then he and my mother looked closer and saw that my eyes were closed. My mother was terrified, and my father immediately calmed her down, told her not to wake me up abruptly. Well, then I woke up when I accidentally hit myself on the head with a shovel. It was heavy. I stood there and did not understand what was happening, and then I told about what I had dreamed. It's like I came to our cottage and tried to plant a tree. Then my parents were alarmed, but they thought I would outgrow it. But no, I didn't outgrow it. On the contrary, everything became more complicated. The older I got, the richer my imagination became. When I was 11 years old, I came to spend the night with my grandparents. The next day, we had to call an ambulance because it turns out I was chasing dogs all night with a knife, thinking in my sleep that it was the wolves who wanted to take my food away from me. I killed the neighborhood dogs. And I can't help it. When I dream these things, it's like I'm dreaming. I don't even feel like I'm going out, like I'm doing something. It's a deep sleep for me. It's not always over, but it's there. 8 years later, I could not stand it. I signed up for a psychologist. My parents did not believe such doctors, considering them swindlers. They're old school, and I couldn't wake up and find myself in the doghouse, on the kitchen floor, or anywhere else. I went through several courses of treatment. It helped, but as it turned out, for a while. At first, I thought it was over. You won't believe how happy it is to fall asleep and wake up without bruises and scratches in your own bed. Well, then I had a girlfriend with whom I planned to build a serious relationship. We moved in together and she ran away from me the first night. I had others after her, but history repeated itself. Every woman I spent the night with ran away in fear of death, and I had nothing to say for myself except to apologize. And then the fun began. I had to look for a job. Since I've always been a great writer, I decided to write a book about the adventures of a little boy. I was still thinking about the name, but I had an idea. Through my friends, I managed to find a critic and editor in one person. He was interested in my idea and agreed to cooperate. I was given 1 month to complete at least 30%. I started working immediately. And as an evil thing, my imagination has completely disappeared. Yes, I couldn't get a line out. As time went on, I lost 3 days without starting. This bothered me even more, and I isolated myself against the background of stress and obsession. I sat at home all day and thought every now and then. My head was beginning to ache from the weight of my thoughts. I felt like a jerk. A month passed, and I came back with what I had. I knew how disgusting the job was. After reading it, they looked at me like an idiot and sent me home. I missed my chance. When I got home, my head was bursting at the seams. I just lay down, took a couple of pills to get to sleep, and fell asleep. When I woke up, I felt overwhelmed. Looking at the calendar, I couldn't believe my eyes. I slept for 2 days in a row. It can't be. But it was not this that struck me, but the fact that there was a pile of papers on the table. I went and saw the manuscript. It was my book, but in an improved form. I read what I wrote, and I was amazed. 30% of the work was on my desk in printed form. But when did I do it? Oh no, did I write it in my sleep? I thought. True, I couldn't remember what the dream was about either. My head was buzzing too much. I took the work to that person, and he was already looking askance in my direction. But I insisted, and he just gave me a standing ovation. He said that if I finished it like this, he would sign a contract with me and find people to print it. It was a lifelong dream. At last my somnambulist made sense. I purposely took 2 more pills and went to bed. 2 days later, I woke up and saw a nearly completed book on my desk. It was awesome. Thus, in a week, I finished it and took it to the press. It was a great moment of my fame. I decided that I would no longer treat a somnambulist because it might be useful to me. To be honest, I played too much. To write another manuscript, I took pills to sleep longer and work harder, so that the genius in me would wake up and do all the work for me. I thought it would always be like this, but I didn't calculate the instability of the brain and central nervous system. One morning, I woke up and saw a pogrom in my apartment. At first, I was afraid. I thought I was robbed, but then I made sure the door was locked from the inside and realized that I had done it. Such pogroms continued for a whole week. Already, the neighbors started complaining about the noise in the middle of the night, and I couldn't do anything because I didn't control my condition. A couple of days later, I threw my computer out of the window, thinking it was a bomb, then crushed my phone, thinking I was being tapped. And then I almost jumped off the 9th floor because I dreamed I was parachuting. I was lucky to wake up the moment I leaned out of the window. And then I realized that such games will not go. I made another appointment with a psychologist and neurologist, where I was prescribed pills like antidepressants and a bunch of sedatives. I slept well and soundly with them, and without incident. I'm sorry about one thing. I can't write anymore. I received a fee for one book, and people were looking forward to the second, and I couldn't risk my health. So for now, I've put an end to my career. Have you ever been sleepwalking? How do you feel about it? Have you ever been unable to move when you wake up? You try your best, but your body won't listen. Then you notice a person who comes up to you, sits on your chest, and then it becomes impossible to breathe. My name is Mike. I want to share with you my story that happened to me when I was 17 years old. At that time, I often suffered from sleep paralysis. This is the state when you seem to wake up, but you are still in a dream and can't move. At the same time, you can see everything that is happening around you. This state can best be described as between dream and reality. Even sometimes, to me, to see that dreadful, overgrown woman in red, the one I saw in my dream. That summer, my parents sent me on vacation to my grandmother's farm to help her with the housework. I admit I grew up in an urban environment, and we lived in an apartment. I didn't go to my grandmother's house much, only once a year at least, so I wasn't particularly close to chores, especially on a farm. I was still a student at that time. Like many of them, I suffered from insomnia. I didn't know how to behave without computer games. On arrival, my grandmother gave me a warm welcome and told me that I could stay in the attic. On that first day, everything around me was very interesting. I ran to the river, met the local guys. By the way, they were very friendly guys. They showed me all the interesting places in the village, but I remember one thing most. My grandmother had a small abandoned shed. Out of curiosity, I went to see what was inside. I saw a scarecrow standing in the corner. It was dressed in an old red granny dress, with a hat on its head and hay sticking out of the bag instead of hair. I didn't pay much attention, but apparently this image remained somewhere in my head. In general, the day was very busy. I came home late at night and fell asleep immediately. I didn't have time for the phone that day. The first time you get into this state, the first thing you experience is shock and wild fear. At some point, I woke up and didn't know if it was a dream or reality. I was also in my room, but I felt someone's presence. Peering into the corner, I clearly saw the silhouette of a man. The panic started and I couldn't move or call for help. All I could do at that moment was lie there and watch and panic. Suddenly, the shape began to move toward me. When he came out into the light, I could see him clearly. Or rather her. It was a woman in a red dress, her hair overgrown and disheveled, and her nails were long. She didn't stop walking slowly toward me. I closed my eyes in frustration and tried to sleep, but the worry in my heart did not give me peace. After a couple of seconds, I decided to open my eyes and think that I had imagined it all. But as soon as I opened them, I saw her face to face again, as she stretched out her hands and began to violently choke me. I couldn't get enough air and I started to gasp. You can say my whole life flashed before my eyes. I felt my previously motionless hand, which was as if it was filled with lead, experience freedom, as if my hand had been released from its prison. I clearly felt that I was moving both hands, but the strangest thing is that I didn't see them at all. I was shocked. I tried to throw this woman off, but I couldn't feel her. I still can't forget that feeling. I was amazed by this. From fear and pain, I screamed, but instead of a scream, I heard a low growl inside me, very far. But because of this, the vibrations became even stronger. I couldn't stand it any longer when suddenly she pressed me down with unimaginable force, and I woke up for real. I realized that I had been lying with my eyes open, and that a veil of darkness had passed from my eyes. My heart was pounding, everything happened quickly. My grandmother was standing next to me, tugging at my shoulder. She told me how she heard strange screams and immediately ran to find out what was happening. I shared my dream with her, and my grandmother explained to me it was sleep paralysis, the moment when the brain woke up before the body, and that there is nothing wrong with it. She just suggested that I play less computer games before bed. I didn't sleep in the attic after that. I moved closer to my grandmother, because you never know what was going to happen. It took me a long time to get away from this horror story. For a couple of days, I didn't sleep all night. I still don't turn off the lights in my room. Tell us if you have ever had this, and what kind of image came to you.